friend, so I want to start off with something that I think a lot of you are carrying around, but maybe haven't said it out loud for one reason or another. And that's, what if your podcast not growing right now isn't actually a problem? I'm serious. What if it's exactly where it is supposed to be? Because I know what that quiet doubt feels like. You look at your analytics. You're checking your downloads. You're checking how many people viewed your video on YouTube, looking at your consumption rate. You're doing all the things that you're told to do. Or maybe you see someone who started after you and somehow seems further along than you. And underneath all of it, there is one question that keeps coming back. Is this even working? If you open this episode asking yourself that question, this one is for you, my friend. This is not hype. This is not a pep talk. It's just clarity. Let me take you somewhere honest. There was a season in my own journey where I had done everything right. Consistent episodes, clear message, content I was genuinely proud of. And still, the numbers didn't reflect what I thought they should. I'm a podcast producer. This should be a walk in the park. I wasn't failing. It was just slow. That frustrating, faithful, in-between space that nobody likes to talk about and rarely teaches on. Because most podcasting advice that's out there on the internet skips it completely. It goes from, hey, here's how to launch your podcast, straight to, okay, here's how to scale, and completely misses the middle piece. That long stretch where most people either quietly grow into what they're called to be, or they just quietly quit and pod fade into the sunset. And the difference between those two groups? It's rarely talent. It's almost always how they interpret that season. So today, I want to give you a different way to read it. Are you ready? Okay, let's go. Now here's why the slow season feels heavy. Most of us are measuring our podcasts using a scoreboard we didn't build and certainly didn't choose. Downloads, subscriber rates, growth rates, consumption rates. And listen, I'll be the first to say, these things matter. I'm not going to tell you that they don't. I have 2 to 3 strategy meetings per week that talk about these exact things. But here's the thing. That model was built for businesses chasing scale. And what you're building isn't just a business. It's a calling. You're not here to scale something. You're here to steward something. Because somewhere along the way, we borrowed the world's definition of success and then wondered why we felt like we were losing. And here's the thing about measuring growth alone. Anything slow starts to feel like failure, even when it's not, even when it's actually formation. Think about the mustard seed. Now, it's one of the smallest seeds there is. And for a long time after you plant it, nothing. No visible progress, no metrics to report, no growth rate, just soil and silence and the quiet work of roots going deeper than anyone can see. And then one day, it's a tree. That's what faithful growth actually looks like. It's not impressive at the beginning. It's not viral. It's not even visible for a while, but it's real. And it's doing something underground that the surface numbers will never show you. And here's what I want you to hold on to today. God doesn't ask for virality. He asks for faithfulness. And those two things don't always happen on the same timeline. We've all been in situations where we've seen that. They're not supposed to. So if you are showing up, if you're refining your message, if you're still here even when it's hard, that is not failure, my friend. That's formation. So let me get practical with you for a minute because I know that's what you actually need. I want you to think about whether any of this sounds familiar. Someone reaches out, a DM, a comment, an email, and they said something like, that episode felt like it was made for me. Maybe it was one person. Maybe it was last month, but it happened. Or this one. You didn't feel like recording this week. Life was heavy. Stats weren't moving, but you did it anyway. You showed up. Or maybe your message is just clearer than it was 6 months ago. You know who you're talking to more specifically. You know what you're trying to say more honestly. You're not just trying to be louder. You're trying to be more true. And friend, if any of that is you, your podcast is working. Because a podcast that deeply reaches one person is doing more kingdom work than a podcast that lightly passes over 1,000 people. So before you pivot, before you rebrand, before you convince yourself something needs to completely change, I want you to sit with one question. Yep, just one. Am I being faithful or am I being fearful? Because those two things can look almost identical from the outside. They can both show up as urgency, as restlessness, as the feeling that something needs to shift. So here's how they feel different on the inside. Fear says, it's not growing fast enough. You're behind. Someone else is further along and you need to catch up. Fear makes decisions from scarcity and comparison. And the quiet dread that maybe you were wrong about this calling. Maybe you heard God incorrectly. But faith says, I know who I'm called to serve. I'm going to show up for them again this week and every week after that. And I'm going to trust that the fruit comes on God's timeline, not mine. Now, those lead to very different decisions, and only one of them leads somewhere good. So here's what I want to leave you with this week. I want you to write down 3 signs of faithfulness in your podcast. Not metrics, but moments. A conversation that mattered. An episode that you're genuinely proud of. A week you showed up even when it was hard. And then give yourself 30 more days before you make any big decision. No pivots, no rebrands, no quitting. Just 30 days of faithfulness and see what becomes clear. So friend, your podcast not going viral right now doesn't mean it's not working. It might mean it's working exactly the way it's supposed to. So keep going. So remember, you can love Jesus and analytics. And life is way too short for boring podcasts. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll talk to you next time. Bye, y'all.